Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fear the Talking Heads. I'm Barb, and this is Joe. You may know Joe from the panels at Scarefest, the guy that kind of makes everything come alive and keeps everyone engaged in between and during the panels. And Joe has his own podcast, Bonehead Weekly, which I highly encourage you to check out. He's on there with his two best friends, and they are all pretty awesome together.
Gad and James.
So when you're watching Scarefest TV on Friday nights and you see those little snippets of movie reviews, that's Joe.
Hi.
Joe knows so much more information than me. He's like a walking encyclopedia of movie information. So if you ever see him, just stop him and you can find out some things.
Thanks,
I
Barbara.
know it. And today, Joe and I are discussing one of the celebrity guests from Scarefest. That's the series. Every week, we try to highlight a celebrity guest and talk about some of their work that maybe you haven't seen, and maybe throw a couple stories or pieces of trivia in there. So, Joe has some stories that he'll talk about as well. I know that From Beyond is kind of a big one that I think people have seen, and the Reanimator trilogy. And he's been in a ton of movies too with Barbara Crampton.
Yeah.
So, and then Stuart Gordon, am I saying that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. He directed his first full-length feature was Reanimator, and of course that's where Barbara and Jeffrey Combs met. But Stewart really came out of the Chicago theater scene, and he was in a group. If you look this up, it's called Steppenwolf. And he was a stage director. And Steppenwolf is not what you're thinking as far as a 60s kick-ass band that has overused music. Steppenwolf, and I didn't know this, actually John Malkovich came out of Steppenwolf, Garris came out of Steppenwolf, a lot of other great actors, that's just the two off the top of my head, came out of Steppenwolf. I mean, we not only have Reanimator, Stewart also directed From Beyond. He also directed a movie called Fortress. He also directed, and I can just go down the list, I've got it over here off the top of my head. I mean,
Well,
oh,
you
what did I
recommended
tell you?
Castle Freak.
Yeah, he directed Castle Freak, and a lot of those are for Charlie Band, who I've also interviewed and has been on
Yes,
Bonehead Weekly. Sorry, I got him drunk at Scarefest last year. God bless him.
but he had a good
I got
time.
myself. We all had a good time. But yeah, it was a dream come true. And Charlie Band also produced a ton of films that Jeffrey was also in, and he kept him working through the 80s and 90s. So where would you like to start?
We could talk about Castle Freak since that's one that you had recommended.
I recommend it. Did you like it?
I did like it.
So I don't care for it.
Oh, you know what? You know what I liked about it?
I don't care for it.
But did you like Subspecies? Let me just.
So those are also Charlie Band pictures, right? And I refer to him like Charlie Band like we're buddies. We're not. I have his email.
You were buddies for an hour.
Well, actually, we've talked a couple of times since then. So he produced a lot of those movies, and I have seen the Subspecies films, and or at least the first
But did
three.
you like the creature dude?
Yeah, I like the look of it. I'm curious to see how I'd feel about it now that I'm a grown-ass man.
The reason why I liked the creature
Yeah.
or I call it a creature. He seems like he's like a
Yeah,
monster.
he's a monster
And
living in the walls eating a cat.
yeah, I was not happy about that. You could have warned me.
Okay, you should have known because Charlie Band talked about it
Oh,
during
he did.
So, there's a scene in Castle Freak where the Castle Freak's in his sort of lair, his cage, and he's chapped in, and a little cat goes in there. If you've seen the movie, I don't know. Yeah. And the cat kind of walks out, kind of comes out, and then gets pulled back in, obviously by its tail, by the Castle Freak, and obviously gets eaten. Now, we don't see any of this, but the shot of the cat being pulled in by its tail, people were really upset. They asked, did you really pull the cat in by the tail? Was it CGI? Was it special effects? And I was always very, honest. I didn't want to lie. I go, no, we pulled the fucking cat in by the tail. That's why the cat went, we didn't hurt the cat. I don't know, that's a quickie story. There's a million Castle Freak stories. Because it was a really good movie.
He was like, yeah, we dragged the cat's ass back into the wall.
I forgot that he said that.
So the story is that cat and you want down now. Oh, now we're talking about eating cats and you're dumb. So basically what it is the cat didn't get hurt, but they did drag the cat under the wall by its tail.
So Castle Freak is about this dude that's living in the castle. These people inherit it. It's Jeffrey Combs. He moves in with his wife and his blind daughter, which you find out later how she gets that way. There's a little story behind it. They are in this castle for maybe a night before weird stuff starts to happen. And so this creature thing that was living in the basement, his mom passed away, and somehow he gets loose and causes chaos in there. But he reminds me so much of that dude from Subspecies in a way, because you see him, his long nails, and I thought they did a great job, by the way,
Of the
like
creature.
the makeup and the creature. Yes, great job. And just like throughout, it's kind of a, oh no, someone's getting blamed for something they didn't do, and it was actually the creature that did it. And it was nice seeing him and Barbara Crampton in another film together.
Well, there's so many, but what I was going to say is, so how do you get a movie with a plot that you inherit a castle, which happens in many, many films? Who just happens to inherit castles? I've never met one of these individuals in my life. Have you?
But do you want to say whose castle it was in real life?
Charlie Band's
There we
castle
go.
in real life. And how do you get a movie well, why did we do a movie? Because Charlie Band bought a castle in Rome, Italy,
And
or
you
out
might as
in
well
Italy,
use it.
and you use it.
That's right.
So he got a castle, and what are you going to do if you have a castle? Well, you're going to shoot a shit ton of movies there.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you have a ton of full moon features that take place in that castle. And Castle Freak came about because of that. And it's directed by Stuart Gordon, who gave us Reanimator.
I wonder if he was able to
And
get a
gave us
tax
Rock.
write-off for that castle then.
And he got every kind of write-off.
I'm just-
I'm curious, what other ones do you like? I mean, of course, everybody's going to talk about Reanimator, and oddly enough, only the first Reanimator is directed by Stuart Gordon. The other two are directed by the producer.
Well, I actually liked him in House on Haunted Hill too. He didn't have a huge part on that, but
But
it
it's
was
memorable. Yeah, I love House on Haunted Hill. It actually invokes a couple of good and bad memories at the same time. It's weird, but
okay.
I love that movie. I saw it when it came out in 2000, and actually it came out in 1999. Who am I? I've just lost my damn mind. I hate doing this. So I don't hate doing it actually. I love talking about it. But Bill Malone's been on our show too, who directed
Oh,
it.
that's great.
William
Well,
Malone.
what? How far back? A couple years ago or recently? Don't
I
remember.
think he was our first. That was my first big get. That was my
Okay.
first director.
Okay.
Director. I shouldn't knock
Yeah.
other people, but as far as people I didn't know, I'd met
Okay.
him once, but it was kind of my first big get, and I was kind of excited that he did the show, and we did about 2 hours. And he's a fantastic storyteller. Has a wonderful story about his dad in a strip club and him seeing the Beatles. Now just go back and listen to it.
I will. I'll drop a link for that one too. I'll find it. Bill
He's
Malone.
Bill Malone, William Malone. Bill to his friends, so I call him Mr. Malone. Sweet too.
Oh,
Anyway, I love that movie. It has a really special. That's a good example. I know people love the original one with
yeah.
Vincent Price, but I'm telling you, the remake is a superior film.
Okay. The effects and everything are just miles apart from the original,
And
of
I don't
course.
think Bill's and the director. I don't think he's a huge fan of it, but he's a huge fan of Jeffrey Combs, and he
Okay.
put Jeffrey in his next movie after that too. So.
So he must have made a really good impression.
Yeah, he's been in a couple of them. He's been in
Hmm.
Parasomnia, which was, I think, William Malone, Bill to his friends, Mr. Malone, self-financed, and then what's the one? It's one of the prettiest movies you've ever seen with one of the it's direct. Fear.com, directed by Bill Malone. One of the prettiest movies ever shot. Seriously.
Okay.
That being said, I do not care for it.
Okay, so Jeffrey Combs, the other movie that you recommended to me was Would You Rather?
It's a good movie,
Yes. Okay, so would you rather? I mean, I think that guy can take on any role, but he's a sadistic, like aristocrat in
but he has a
this.
moral compass. You
Oh,
don't
yes.
cheat.
So he finds these people that are in financial like dire straits financially. So he kind of goes around the room as like a little preview to what he's going to do, and he's like daring, not daring people, but basically saying, putting a stack of money in front of them and says, "Listen, if you do this, I'll give you this stack of bills." And that's just a preview for what's to come, which they are all there to try to be the winner of this game that he's pulling. But there can be only one winner, kind of like Highlander. There can be only one.
Only one.
He's really nasty in this, and at the end, he does keep his promise. One person gets this big satchel of money, but you have to watch it if you're someone that likes Saw. This is kind of like a mild version of Saw, I felt like.
I think it's smarter than Saw.
But I had to mute, I'm such a baby because I had to mute some parts so that I couldn't hear like screams or whatever.
Why do you even watch horror
I
films?
don't know. Well, some I can handle if it's like the horror icons like Freddy and stuff like that.
I mean,
And it's
that's
okay that
just
we're talking about this because Robert Englund is a guest this year also at
what? He's never
Scarefest.
been to Lexington before. This is such exciting news. Why
So
didn't
we're
someone tell me that Brandon Griffith?
we're
Mm,
weaving it all in. We're
yeah,
talking about all of them. And I'm
the
trying to summon Barbara
energy.
Crampton there, so it's good we're talking about her too. But yeah, would you rather? I'm kind of glad you recommended that one. I don't know that I would watch it again, only because it's a little hard on me. When
It's not an enjoyable film. It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a
There's
good
a
movie.
difference. Yeah.
It's
And
I
his
feel like
son is the real psychopath.
he really is.
Can I
Because
throw out a couple more? You
yes,
may not have seen them.
yes.
So, Stuart Gordon, tragically, we lost a few years ago. There was a show that was produced and created by Mick Garris, also a Bonehead Weekly guest. And he is called The Masters of Horror, and it was done for Showtime in the early 2000s. Are you familiar with it, Barbara?
Masters of Horror, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Stuart Gordon directed two of those, and one of them, it both of them were based on Edgar Allan Poe, but the second one was the best one. And it's called The Black Cat, and it stars Jeffrey Combs. Now, if you had a hard time, Barbara, with the cat scene in Castle Freak, I cannot recommend you watch The Black Cat. But for you all out there, I'm assuming there was no harm done to said cat. I wasn't on set, but I'm pretty sure it's a union shoot, and that's not going to happen. You should check it out. Jeffrey Combs basically playing Edgar Allan Poe, and he would go on to do that in a one-man stage show that they used to travel with that Stewart directed. And I just think he's a fantastic character actor. And a few other things, if you don't mind me mentioning, that I just love Jeffrey in, is that he is such a stalwart in Star Trek. He's one of the few people that is in multiple. He's on Deep Space Nine. He was on Voyager. He was on Next Generation. He was even in Star Trek. Oh, the one with Scott Bakula, Enterprise. So you wanted your story.
Yes.
So a few years ago, Jeffrey Combs was at Scarefest. We did their panel, and this was in the old convention center before they rebuilt the new convention center. I'm just standing there, and Scarefest did have a habit of staying open what I do consider a little too late. And sometimes celebs would complain about that. He comes up to me and starts a conversation. And we're going back and forth. And if you got to remember, I know his career. So it's easy enough for me to talk about different people and ask different questions. And he's complaining to me about how late Scarefest is still open. And all of a sudden I don't have any input on this. And nobody gives a two shits about what I should or when we should close or open. He starts bitching. He's like, I don't understand why we're still open. Can't I go to dinner? I mean, I really just want to go take a shit.
Oh
And I'm trying not just lose it all by laughing. And at the same time, I'm thinking this is a very surreal experience because clearly just two human beings sharing this moment,
sharing this crappy moment.
this not a crappy moment. And at the time, I was like, just ask him if he wants to go get a drink. Just ask him if he wants to meet for a drink. And I thought, no, don't do it. Don't do it. And I didn't do it.
Aw.
Conversation ends. I don't remember how. Next day, I wanted him to sign something. And I said, by the way, can I interview you? And I'm telling you, I have been shut down before, but that was one of the quickest shutdowns because Bonehead had just started
Oh
I've ever
gosh.
had in my entire life. I don't know what I would talk about that hasn't been covered before.
Oh my gosh.
That theater experience came out in full force. And if it sounds like I'm saying he's an asshole, he was not. He was absolutely wonderful to me. But you clearly seen the last thing he wanted to do was another podcast. And that was 7 years ago. I don't know.
Okay.
I've been 8 years, maybe. I don't know. I've been doing this a minute. So just think later on, why is this place still open? Why can't I go to dinner? I just want to take a shit.
It's so real though. He just,
No,
I can't blame the guy though. He
I
probably
can't
just wanted to relax after a full day.
either.
I feel like
There are,
Saturdays can be kind of long. By the end of a Saturday, just like, because I had decided like I don't want to do the Saturday VIP party. For me, it's just a lot after a full day. of people eating.
Yeah,
But
but
I could see how some
but
people
that's
would
where people
enjoy
buy you
it.
drinks, Barbara.
What?
That's where people. How else am I going to get my free drinks if I don't go to the party?
Oh, well, I don't really drink, so for me, I can just go back and pass out, get ready for
Yeah,
Sunday.
I get it.
But yeah, I
With
could
the,
see, and some of the celebrities, like they pop in there after they've been doing autographs and panels all day. I don't know how they do it.
I will give Scarefest credit for this one. 80% of the time, Scarefest has the best VIP Saturday party of any convention I've ever worked. A couple of times Comic-Con has beat them. Just
Yeah,
a
a
couple of
little.
times.
You said it's very rock star kind of, especially at the Manchester.
Yeah, it's fantastic I think so. Well, I ended up this year with a top hat on and had a good time. This guy.
You
So
were.
I would encourage all of you to go meet Jeffrey. He will not, there are other people who I've had the privilege of meeting over with this fall, will be a decade I've been doing it, and who I can't say that about. But the majority of people I can. And Jeffrey is one of those people where if you're like, oh, I'm a big fan, do it. Spend the
Well,
money.
and the other thing that I was going to mention is,
Take a drink out of
excuse
your
me,
vodka.
water. But the other thing
Right.
that I was going to mention was if he does a panel, the panels give you just one more opportunity to see them and hear all the stories, which are the best part.
Well, Barbara, you and I are friends because that's how we bonded.
Yeah,
Friends was
through
because
the
of
panels.
panels. Yeah, and you
Yes.
came up and started talking to me, and we've become good friends over the last 2 years. But what I would like to say about that is that with the panels, is I started out as a fan, and it was my favorite part. And you and I have agreed with this about going to conventions, and I agree with you. There's always, unless the person's just a complete train wreck or a-hole, you're always going to learn something you didn't know. Even if the panel moderator sucks, you will usually learn something that you didn't know. But one of the good things that we try to go out of our way to do in any show that I am in, where I am in charge of that area, is that the audience, unless the celebrity just cuts me off, I always give the audience as much access as possible to ask those questions. And I think that a lot of people who go to conventions for some odd reason, and I think it's the people who only go once or twice, if you're not going to the panels, you are not getting your money's worth. You're just not. If you're just like you said, if you're just going up for that just 30-second, maybe a minute interlude where you get your something signed, maybe it's usually no more than 30 seconds.
And I think you're pretty fair about checking the room, trying to, unless someone else is in charge, like Skeet was going around with the microphone
He
then.
stole the mic. Skeet stole the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you didn't really have a
And then
choice,
later rubbed my back.
which is a story for another one.
It's a story for another one.
So, well, thank you so much, Joe, for the stories and for hanging
And
out with me.
congratulations. I mean, the show's going great. I love your artwork. You do a really good job with all this. I always appreciate you. You're a dear friend, and I will do whatever you ask for the most
Thank
part.
you. I have to
Except
get
for that
all
one
three of you
thing,
back on too, all the
because I
boneheads.
won't do that. Oh no,
But I won't do that.
do that. Do that? Is that what you said? And with that, this has been Fear the Talking.
Joe said it. This has been
Sorry.
Fear the Talking Heads. Tune in next time.
Toodles.